Let's add an indicator widget to our JiGui. Hello everyone, this is Ali Reza. Welcome to the Mentor Code Lab. Now, when I'm talking about indicators, I'm not talking about radial markers that has some pointers and they rotate around the center. No, those type of indicators are not what we normally see in Minecraft. Although it's doable, but I prefer not to do it. In Minecraft, when we are talking about indicators, normally we are talking about the vertical or horizontal sliders that will be filled with different values. For example, this green color is completely full and at the maximum value, but this blue one is not at the maximum value. And also, we have some different implementations of this. For example, this can be a fluid container, not the water, not the concept of fluids actually, but something like, I don't know, maybe a storage that shows the amount of dye inside your container. For example, the blue dye, or I don't know, the lime dye, whatever you want. Or anything else that is not actually a real fluid to get its sprite from the Minecraft. On the other hand, we have different things that we can show using this system. For example, this can be a mana bar, or I don't know, a pressure bar that is not already full, or alternatively, we can show the energy bar. Now, this is one implementation of energy bar. The other one is this one, a smaller indicator that shows the mana or energy or whatever these two can be. I don't care, okay? So if you take a look at these systems, all of them has one thing in common. They are producing values from zero to top. In other words, we need to draw the indicator from bottom up. Also, in this example, I may want to have or may not want to have two extra layers of drawing on top of everything, and that can help even on things like energy bar, you know. Of course, this is not fitting inside this image right now, but things like this can be done at any time you want, and we need to give the ability to have at least two layers of foreground drawing sprites, one for the progress bar and one for the background. Also, for the background, I'm not sure, maybe you want this as a border and then something in the middle. You can design your sprites, you know. However, if I want to go too deep on this concept, it will be really hard for me to cover everything. Instead of that, I will do it in two passes. One pass will be this, you know, a main system that has a background and a progress. And on top of it, we will add something like, I don't know, this system if we want to. And we can completely do it. Or actually, this is the best part. This can be the thing. And then in our render layer, we add one of these two or both of them on top as we want to. So this is our real progress. Again, a background and a progress. And I don't care if this is what you want or not. If you want these two layers on top of it or not, or one of them or both of them, I don't care. Because these two will make things a little bit more complex. If I want to add them inside the system, I need to sit back and think about a structure that will carry on both of these. Because let's face it, it has an X and Y, width and height for each layer of these. And God knows how many of these layers you want to add onto the game. You know, it's not something that should be happened inside a widget. A widget is just this, you know, a background and a progress, and it will handle the drawing of the progress like what we had in Fluid. And these two are actually being addressed as parameters inside widget textures with the name dark bar central border and dark bar central line. So if you want to add them inside your draw calls, you can use them. Now that we know what we want, we can think about it just as a fluid container, isn't it? The difference is that we don't have the fluid. So when we don't have the fluid, we don't have a way to get the amount and the capacity from the fluid container. Instead, we can do suppliers of different things. For example, I don't know, suppliers of long or suppliers of integer and handle it that way. Question is, should we use long or integer? I will use long because energy system is using long, and chances are that if you want to use pressure or things like that, long is the way to go to handle big numbers if you want to. And if you are using small numbers, so be it. We are just wasting few bytes of data per block entity, and at the end, it won't be even a 1 megabyte of data. I don't care about that. So to start our widget, I will start with a base widget, and I will call it indicator widget. Now, indicator widget will have lots of things in common common with that fluid thing. So I will start copy pasting actually, because things will be easier. And I'm not going to implement anything right now because it will yell at me about, everything. But I want to first handle the variables that we want. So we don't have this fluid. And instead of marker, actually, can I keep it as the marker name or the indicator? I will use the indicator because that would be better. Or I want, I don't know, progress. I will go with indicator because I will have a progress indicator in later. Indicator X, Y, width, height, V, U, and then the texture. And because we are not tinting, we don't need that position supplier. However, now I need two different suppliers, and both of them will be suppliers of long. And you see that we have a problem there because we use capital R here. And this will be the amount supplier, and the next one will be capacity supplier. Okay, now that we have that, we can continue forward. No, we don't need any fluid containers. Then we want the constructor. So it's easy, just Alt insert, go to constructor and select everything. I think okay. Then we have to separate these things. In case you didn't notice, it moved the background X and Y at the very end. Okay, you know what? I'm lazy as hell. Copy the whole thing, paste and handle errors. Okay, now we don't have this storage, so bye-bye to that. Then instead of marker, we have indicators. We don't have these fluid params. And finally, we will have two suppliers of long, one for the amount supplier, and I will move it into a new line, and another one, be smart, for the capacity supplier. So I will remove that. That's amount supplier and the capacity supplier. So we have them. Right now, I'm not overwriting anything, but I want the builder. So I will have a public static builder. This will be class. And here we want to return public that returns indicator widget. We call it build. No, not that. I said none of that. Becoming dumb. Okay. And finally, we are ready to roll and go forward. Now, before I implement the render and stuff like that, I will again come back and get these, and I will work with my builder first. Again, I can use my own code from Fluid Widget because that's a lot closer to what we want than you can imagine. Instead of markers, we will have indicators. So just fix those names. We don't have the fluid stuff, and instead of block pause, we have long, and this will be the amount supplier, and the next one is capacity supplier. I want a constructor that is empty. Then I want the constructor that returns background rect and marker rect. And again, remember, we changed the name of marker to indicator. And no, we want builder. We want the background texture and marker texture in copy. Don't forget to change the method name here. We return the builder from this class, not the fluid one. And again, changing the marker name to be indicator. Now, if you want to keep it as the name marker, you can do it. It will make your life on copy pasting easier. However, in my opinion, having a better naming for your parameters and your method calls is much better approach. So we have the amount and we have the capacity. Be smart. The capacity, now we want to use different things. We can say that, hey, return a builder, but this is normal energy indicator. Do I want to do it here? So we address everything, isn't it? Width and height, X and Y, indicators, U and V, and textures and suppliers. Yes, we did do everything. So here we say return the smart guy, new indicator widget with the backgrounds, indicator, indicator U and V, and then the textures, and then the suppliers. What's wrong here? It says create constructor. Wait a minute. We are accepting. Oh, we need to remove this fluid thing from the constructor. Okay, now we are working. This is our base progress widget, indicator widget. We can use it actually in other places, and you will see it in two different places actually, I think. The first place is the energy system, of course. The second one will be progress bars that move from bottom to top. So vertical progress bars, but here's the problem. On vertical progress bars, I need to go in two different directions, and we will talk about it later. So I may not extend them from this class, but it will be a hell of a copy paste. You will see what is going on there. Now, remember, we finished our builder, we finished our parameter assignment, but we are not using anything anywhere because guess what? We still need to implement our interfaces and follow the rendering thing. So now we implement our interfaces, and this will force us to implement the methods. We leave the render for time being. For each child is empty. For get height, we will return the background height, background width, background Y, background X. Here we say that background Y equals Y, background X equals to X, and finally we go into the render method. Now thankfully render method is much simpler because we don't need to get anything from fluids and stuff like that. So we just need to draw the background, and then we need to call that amount and capacity thing. But here we have have a problem because we don't have this fluid storage. So instead, we will say amount supplier.get and capacity supplier.get. However, we have a little bit of problem here. If any one of those two is null, we can't draw anything other than the background. So if the amount supplier equals to null or capacity supplier equals to null, return. Do not do the drawing anymore. We just draw the background. If the amount supplier.get equals to null, well, that will be a long, can't be null. So it's just derping here. Amount supplier.get is smaller or equals to 0, or actually the capacity is smaller than 0 or equals to 0. Then we return. So instead of fluid height, we have indicator height. And now that we have everything, we can draw our indicator. So we will use this call, not draw the rendered tile, because we are using a simple image here. But instead of the background text, we go with indicators. So indicator texture, then indicator X, indicator Y. But as you guessed, we will reduce the height from here. Then the indicator U, indicator V, indicator width, and instead of the indicator height, here we simply want the bar height, and we are done with it. Okay, so this is our indicator widget. However, we want to draw the tooltip, so to draw the tooltip, I want to have anything like MB or FB or I don't know, pressure beside the name. So let me tell you what I'm talking about. If we have the mouse helper dot is mouse over, and let's see if it's smart enough or not. Apparently not. Mouse X, there we go. I think it found it. No. Mouse Y, not the background, but indicator X, indicator Y, indicator width, and indicator height. Not that, but we want to draw our tooltip on the context with mouse and mouse. Okay, for draw the tooltip, here I need an extra thing, but let me copy paste that method from my fluid widget here, and you will see something. This is our draw tooltip, okay? Simple as that. Now, instead of the fluid, we don't have the fluid. For the amount, of course, we have amount supplier.get. For this one, we have our capacity supplier.get. Now, we don't need to check the null or 0 values here because we had already fixed that. So we don't need that part. Here we said we got the text renderer. Now, here is the thing. Instead of converting anything to anything, we know that we are long. So basically, we can say amount, and I will remove actually these two ones. Okay, so here I will say amount and finally capacity. And here we don't need the naming of the fluid, but here's the problem. See that MB for millibucket? Well, guess what? If we are energy, we may want to use E, or I don't know, FE, whatever. If we are pressure, I may use Pascal or whatever you want to use. For example, maybe you are a rotational thing and you want to use RPM. Now here, I don't know what I want to use. So I will say suffix, and suffix needs to be provided here. We need to have it somewhere. I don't want to add it to draw tooltip because suffix apparently is assigned once into the indicator widget. So we will say private final string suffix, and the suffix will be empty. Okay, and here we want the suffix maybe after the, actually at the start, why not? So string suffix. And here we will say this suffix equals suffix. What's your problem? Not final. What do you mean? It's from, oh, we are assigning something here. We don't want that. Okay. So inside our builder, we have our suffix and we will assign it to be empty. And let's see if it's smart enough to give me the suffix. No, goddammit. Public builder suffix string suffix. There we go. Okay. Now that we have the suffix, we add it here. So it will be this dot suffix, comma, breakdown. What's going on here? Now that we have the suffix, I want to make sure that this will work properly. I will say string temp equals to. I want to check if suffix does not equal to empty. If that's the thing, then we want that. Otherwise, we want to drop that last part. Replace not with null safe not equals. Object not equals to that. That will work. And finally, instead of this, I can say temp. Okay, this way, if I want to add anything like energy, RPM, anything else, I can. If I don't want to do that, I can leave it empty. So finally, we are ready to move forward to our next widget. And that widget is actually an extension of this one. That will happen in the next video. If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on that bell so that when I publish a new video, you will get informed. Have fun, everyone. Bye.